The waiter hesitated when Daniel pushed the crumpled bills across the counter, his fingers shaking as if the money might vanish if he let go. The total blinked red on the screen, higher than he had expected, higher than he could afford. But behind him the elderly couple sat frozen in embarrassment, the woman clutching her purse with both hands, the man staring at his empty plate like it accused him of something unforgivable. Daniel swallowed, feeling the ache in his stomach that had nothing to do with hunger. His daughter Lily waited at the window booth, swinging her legs, unaware that tonight's dinner had just erased the last safety net between them and disaster. "I've got it," Daniel said again, forcing the words out before doubt could choke them. The waiter nodded slowly and took the money. As Daniel turned, the old woman reached for his sleeve, her eyes glossy with tears. "You shouldn't," she whispered. "You don't know what tomorrow brings." Daniel smiled, thin and tired. "Tomorrow can worry about itself," he said, though fear crawled up his spine as he returned to Lily, wondering how he would explain the empty fridge in the morning. Outside, rain slapped the pavement like a warning. Daniel lifted Lily onto his shoulders, her laughter cutting through the cold night, and for a moment the world felt almost kind. He didn't see the man at the corner table watching him leave, didn't notice the way the man's jaw tightened or how his eyes followed Daniel with unsettling focus. At home, Daniel tucked Lily into bed, telling her stories about brave explorers who never gave up, even when the maps ran out. When she fell asleep, he sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the unpaid bills. The eviction notice folded and unfolded until the paper softened. He whispered a promise to the dark that somehow he would make it work, even as the clock ticked louder than his hope. Morning came with a knock so sharp it felt like a punch. Daniel's heart slammed as he opened the door, expecting a landlord or a debt collector, but instead 3 men in tailored suits stood on his porch, raincoats gleaming, shoes too clean for the neighborhood. One of them smiled politely, the kind of smile that never reached the eyes. "Daniel Carter?" he asked. Daniel nodded, his mind racing. "You're requested downtown," the man said. "Our employer insists." Fear surged. Lily peeked from behind the door frame, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Daniel knelt, told her everything was fine, though nothing about the men felt fine at all. As he stepped outside, a black luxury car idled at the curb, its engine humming like a threat. The ride was silent, the city blurring past until they stopped before a towering glass building that screamed money. Daniel was led through marble halls into an office larger than his entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city spread beneath them like a conquered kingdom. A man stood with his back turned, hands clasped behind him. When he turned, Daniel's breath caught. It was the old man from the diner, but transformed, his frailty replaced by an aura of power that pressed down on the room. "Sit," the man said softly. Daniel sat, his palms damp. "Do you know who I am?" the man asked. Daniel shook his head. The man smiled. "I am worth more than this building, more than this city. And last night you bought my wife dinner." Daniel tried to speak, but the words tangled in his throat. The man raised a hand. "You didn't know. That's what matters." He leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Most people would have walked away. You didn't." Daniel finally found his voice. "I didn't do it for anything," he said. "They needed help." The man studied him for a long moment, then laughed, a sound that echoed dangerously. "Exactly," he said. "And that's why you're here." The man's name was Victor Hale, and his wealth was legendary, built from ruthless decisions and broken competitors. He explained that his wife insisted on finding the man who had shown them kindness without knowing who they were. "She believes goodness should be rewarded," Victor said, though something darker flickered in his gaze. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were bank statements, contracts, numbers so large Daniel felt dizzy. "This is yours," Victor said. "A house, a trust fund for your daughter. Your debt's erased." Daniel's hands trembled as he pushed the folder back. "I can't take this," he whispered. Victor's smile vanished. "You misunderstand," he said coldly. "This is not charity. It's a test." Victor stood and paced slowly. "I have spent my life buying loyalty, fear, silence. Rarely do I see something real. You showed me something real." He stopped inches from Daniel. "Take this and live without worry. Refuse and walk back into your life unchanged." The room felt smaller, the windows closing in. Daniel thought of Lily, of her laughter, of the eviction notice waiting at home. He also thought of the promise he'd made in the dark. He took a shaky breath. I'll accept, he said, but only if I can keep being who I am. Victor stared at him, then burst out laughing again. You have no idea how dangerous that answer is, he said. Very well. Within days, Daniel's life transformed beyond recognition. The fridge was full, the bills gone. Lily enrolled in a school he could never have dreamed of. But unease followed him like a shadow. Victor called often, asking questions, probing Daniel's choices, his values as if dissecting him. One night, Victor invited Daniel to dinner at his estate. Over crystal glasses and candlelight, Victor leaned close. I didn't bring you here just to reward you, he confessed. I brought you here because I'm tired. I want to know if a man like you can exist in my world without becoming like me. Daniel understood then that the gift was also a burden. He was being watched, measured, tested. When Victor's wife smiled at him across the table, gratitude shining in her eyes, Daniel felt the weight of her faith. Weeks later, Victor announced his decision. He would step back, leaving a portion of his empire to be run by Daniel, not for profit alone, but for people who fell through the cracks like Daniel once had. The board protested, the media mocked, but Victor stood firm. I bet on a poor man's kindness, he said publicly, and it changed everything. Years later, when Victor passed away, headlines called it the strangest succession in modern history. Daniel stood at the funeral, Lily at his side, no longer poor but still humble. He thought of that rainy night, the crumpled bills, the fear, and the choice that had rewritten his life. As the coffin lowered, Daniel whispered a thank you to the man who had tested him, and a promise to never forget the cost of a single good deed, given with nothing but an honest heart. After the funeral, silence returned in waves Daniel had never learned how to surf. The mansion felt too large, its corridors echoing with a power that was never meant for someone who once counted coins for milk. At night he lay awake, staring at the ceiling, haunted by Victor's final words, spoken days before his death. Wealth reveals people, Daniel. It doesn't change them. Be careful what you reveal. Those words followed him like a warning he could never fully decode. The board of directors circled him like wolves, smiling in public, plotting in private. Lawsuits appeared overnight. Anonymous threats arrived by mail, and reporters camped outside the gates, waiting for the moment the poor single dad finally failed. One evening, Daniel found Victor's wife sitting alone in the garden, her hands buried in the soil as if she needed to feel something real. She looked up at him with tired eyes. They think Victor was foolish, she said quietly. They think kindness is weakness. Daniel nodded. So did I once, he replied. She smiled sadly. Then prove them wrong. The next morning, Daniel made a decision that shocked the city. He liquidated one of the company's most profitable assets and used the money to erase medical debt for thousands of families. Stock prices plunged. Headlines screamed betrayal. The board called it madness. Daniel called it necessary. The pressure intensified. One night, a brick crashed through the mansion window with a note tied to it. You don't belong here. Lily found it before Daniel could hide it. She looked up at him, fear flickering across her face. Are we poor again? She asked softly. Daniel knelt and held her tightly. No, he said. We're just doing something hard. That night he almost quit, almost sold everything and ran. But then he remembered the diner, the shame on the elderly man's face, the way small kindnesses could shatter despair. He stayed. Months passed. The lawsuits collapsed under scrutiny. The media tone shifted when families began telling their stories, voices trembling with gratitude, lives saved not by charity but by dignity. Donations poured in. Other executives followed his lead. A movement formed, unstoppable. The same people who once mocked him now begged for meetings. Daniel refused most of them. He had learned that power listened only when it was forced to. Years later, Daniel stood in a small neighborhood diner, older now, lines carved into his face by responsibility rather than poverty. Lily, grown and confident, paid for an elderly couple's meal without hesitation. Daniel watched from the corner booth, heart pounding as the couple tried to refuse, pride battling need. Lily smiled gently, exactly the way he once had. When she returned, Daniel felt tears burn his eyes. You didn't even think about it, he said. Lily shrugged. You taught me tomorrow can worry about itself. Outside, rain began to fall, soft this time, almost forgiving. Daniel realized then that Victor's real fortune had never been money. It was the chain reaction of a single choice made on a desperate night. A choice that proved kindness could outlive fear, outgrow power, and rewrite destinies long after the price was paid.